You walk into someone's home and something stops you. You can't quite name it at first. It's not that it's decorated beautifully. It's not that they spent the weekend deep cleaning before you arrived. It's that it's always like this. Every surface clear, every room quiet. And you find yourself standing there thinking, what is different about this person? Are they more disciplined? Do they have more time? Do they genuinely enjoy scrubbing their kitchen every single evening? Here's what I found, and it genuinely surprised me when I first looked into it. The people who keep a clean home every day aren't cleaner. They're wired differently, not in any mystical sense, neurologically, psychologically, at the level of how their brain processes their environment, and what that environment is constantly doing back to them. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about why clean people are happier. It was never really about the cleaning. It was about something running much deeper than that. Let me show you what's actually happening. And if you've ever felt strangely drained when you come home to a messy apartment, you're not imagining it. You're not being dramatic. Your brain is responding to something real. Here's what clutter does that nobody talks about. It doesn't just look bad. It talks to your nervous system, constantly. Every pile of unopened mail on the counter, every dish left in the sink, every jacket draped over the chair you never hang it on. Your brain registers all of it as unfinished business. And unfinished business is mentally expensive. Think about the person who sits down to work from home, laptop open, coffee ready, good intentions. But the kitchen behind them is a disaster. There's laundry on the couch, and 3 things they meant to deal with yesterday are still sitting on the table. They're not looking at any of it, but their brain is. And 40 minutes later, they can't figure out why they feel scattered and slightly irritable before they've even done anything hard. Or the couple who comes home after long days and just can't relax. The apartment isn't filthy, but it's never quite reset. And there's this low hum of unease that neither of them can source until one of them finally snaps at something small. The clutter isn't the problem. The clutter is the symptom, telling you something about how your brain is spending its energy without your permission. And if you've been wondering why your evenings feel heavier than they should, look around. The answer might be closer than you think. So what's actually going on inside your head? Here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. Think of your brain as having a background process running at all times, like apps open on your phone that you're not actively using, but they're still draining the battery. A Princeton University study found that physical clutter in your environment competes for your attention even when you're not consciously looking at it. What that means for you is simple. The mess isn't just annoying. It's consuming mental bandwidth before you even start your day. But here's the part I find even more interesting. Your brain doesn't just process clutter as inconvenience. It processes it as lost control. And lost control triggers the same low-level stress response as an actual threat. Not dramatically, just quietly, persistently, like a smoke alarm with a weak battery. You don't panic. You just never fully relax. Be honest. Have you ever cleaned your home when you were anxious and felt something settle inside you before you even finished? That wasn't coincidence. That was your nervous system getting its signal back. And this is where the psychology of people who clean every day gets really interesting. Because they've figured something out, consciously or not, that most people never articulate. Your outer environment and your inner state aren't separate things. They're in constant conversation. So here's the real question. If daily cleaners aren't more disciplined, and I want to be clear about this, they're not, then what are they actually doing differently? I know what you're thinking. That's too simple. I've tried to keep things clean. It never sticks. Stay with me, because the answer isn't more effort. It's a completely different mechanism. Technique 1. Identity-based habit formation. Why it works. People who clean every day don't do it because they love cleaning. They do it because somewhere along the way, they became the kind of person who keeps a clean home. And once a behavior becomes part of your identity, it stops requiring willpower. Your brain just does it. The same way you don't debate whether to brush your teeth. The research is clear. It takes an average of 66 days for a behavior to become automatic. Not 21, like the old myth said. What that means for you is this. You're not failing because you're undisciplined. You're failing because you stopped before the behavior became part of who you are. At work, start with one visible surface, your desk. Spend 90 seconds clearing it before you leave every day. Not because it matters, because you're building evidence that you're someone who follows through on small commitments. At home, pick one room. One, not your whole apartment. The kitchen counter, the bathroom sink, the coffee table. Maintain just that space for 2 weeks. Let your brain start updating its picture of who you are. Technique 2. Habit stacking. Why it works. You don't create a new habit from scratch. You attach it to something your brain already does automatically. The existing behavior is the trigger. The new behavior rides along for free, with no willpower required. At work, you already make coffee every morning. Wipe the counter while it brews. 10 seconds, same trigger every day. At home, you already brush your teeth every night. Wipe down the bathroom sink right after. The habit stacks onto something already automatic, and over time, the two become inseparable. Technique 3. Behavioral activation. Why it works. Physical action with a clear beginning, middle, and end discharges nervous energy more effectively than sitting still and trying to calm down. Admiral William McRaven said it simply in his famous 2014 University of Texas commencement speech. If you want to change the world, start by making your bed. The point wasn't neatness. It was momentum. One completed task generates the neurological fuel for the next. When you're stressed at work, instead of staring at your screen trying to focus, spend 5 minutes physically organizing your immediate space. Reset the environment. Your brain registers the completion and gives you something to build on. At the end of the day at home, 10 minutes before bed, do a light reset. Surfaces wiped, things back in place. You're not cleaning. You're creating a psychological boundary between the day that was and the night that's coming. You're telling your nervous system, it's handled, you can rest now. Here's what I want you to take from this. The people who keep a clean home every day aren't more organized than you. They're not more rigid. They didn't wake up one day with a sudden love of vacuuming. They made one quiet decision, maybe without even realizing it, to stop letting their environment happen to them and start making it work for them. You weren't messy because you were lazy. You were messy because nobody ever showed you that your space and your mental state are the same system. Now you know. And knowing changes what you do next. Here's what I want you to do tonight. Pick one surface. Just one. Reset it before you go to sleep.